It's the Tuesday live show. My name's Jeff St Laurent, and as always, I'm pumped to be here as I help coaches transition to a full-time business. And before we get started on today's topic, which is the ins and outs of following up to get paid, which is a huge skill set we must understand. And I'm going to go over some of the details of that to help you get paid. Before we get doing, I do record all these Tuesday live shows and I put them in my university on my website, sellingcoaching.com. Check out my university. I've got a fantastic arsenal. It's an arsenal, like seriously, it's an arsenal of education to help you as a coach transition to a full-time business. One of the first resources I'd like you to start off with is right on my homepage at sellingcoaching.com, and that is launching your full-time coaching business, the first 3 vital steps. So when you enter your name and email address, it's going to give you instant access to that audio course. Additionally, that's going to put you into my email community. You're going to receive emails from me on a weekly basis. I want you to be on there because I deliver some great information to help you on your way to transitioning to full-time. But also I want you to see how I use my email community and how I communicate with my audience, because that's a vital, important component of what you do with your coaching business as you move forward. Before we move into the topic, I do want to let you know if you're in a position where you're struggling, or you don't want to struggle and you need some specific guidance on structuring your business, setting yourself up from your headline, helping who with what specifically, your niche, in other words, into structuring your email marketing, setting everything up, and then your actual marketing, and then qualifying clients, and then obviously into the place of following up, getting paid, really creating your whole business from the ground up. Consider hiring me as your mentor coach. And if this is something that you're interested in, or at least open to learning more about, go to the Work With Me page at sellingcoaching.com and fill out the form at the bottom of that page. And then I will reach out to you and we can discuss and see where you're at to see if doing something is appropriate or not. With that being said, we're going to fire this up today and we're going to talk about following up. Following up is such a big component to what we do in our business. And it's not just following up, it's following up so we can get paid. But it's not following up just so we can get paid. Ideally, yeah, that's the ultimate outcome of following up with people is we want to get paid. We want to coach people, right? It's the passion of it, and then it's also the business aspect of it as well. However, I don't want you thinking about, oh, I want to get paid, I want to get paid, I want to get paid. I want you to think about, number one, any follow-up that we do, the philosophy that I have is that I want to create connections. I want to create and build relationships. Because if you're going to sell someone anything down the road anyways, you've got to build a relationship with them. You got to create a connection with them. And when I say build a relationship, this doesn't have to take like years or months or even weeks necessarily. You could start building a relationship from the first connection that you have. And you can get deep with someone quick if you just take the time to understand them and not lead with, hey, how about my products? How about my services? And just try and be like salesy and try and just get someone to buy something right out of the gates. I received an email from someone yesterday, which I don't even know who the heck they are. And they're talking about how they help coaches and managing their websites and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, hey, if you're not interested in this, just say no thanks. So I was nice enough and replied and said no thanks because number one, I don't know who this person is. And number two, they're just approaching me from a sales perspective. And it's like they don't even know if I have a need or something like that. They're just assuming I have that need, And I said no thanks. And then they wrote back. And it's whether it's automated or it's plug and play automated, meaning they're just copying and pasting and replying back. And then he said, hey, before we see you go, we just want to let you know that it's $99 a month and here's some of the things that we could do for you. And it's just like, dude, leave me alone. And maybe they have the best service in the world, but it's like, number one, I wasn't even a potential lead because they just found me from the internet or from somewhere, and so obviously that's not the path we want to go down. But when we talk about following up, it's like, I want you to get to know that person, and it's whether someone's, and this follow-up starts what I would call the sales conversation, but it's with the mindset of, I want to get to know this person better. I want to connect with them. And through that connection, ideally, I'm trying to find out, yes, do they have a need, or what is that their need that they have in their world right now? And if they have something that they're going for, how serious about achieving that are they, and how serious about doing something about that now are they? I mean, that's the timing aspect of that, right? So it's always about need and timing. And if that point gets to where they have a need and we can help them with that, and they want to do something about it right now, and they know they need some help and they're seeking some help, then maybe we can make an approach, right? But way prior to that is we've got to create a conversation, and it's like, tell me a little bit more about yourself. And it's how are they coming to you, right? In other words, maybe they're joining your private Facebook group. Maybe they're liking your Facebook page. Maybe they're subscribing to your email community from or for a free resource from your website. Maybe they just saw something on social media and they're just, making a comment on it. Maybe they you did a seminar, a live event, and they've attended that seminar, and you talk to them afterwards, or you're following up with them from there. Maybe they came across your website and they made a comment on your YouTube channel or any other social media platform, any type of interaction that they have from there. Maybe you've done a live event like this, maybe a webinar, and they were an attendee, and maybe they made a comment, maybe they're reaching out, or maybe they're just an attendee, right? These are any multitude of situations where we could begin the follow-up process. Following up doesn't mean that you reached out to me and now I'm going to follow up with you. I'm following up means I'm following up on a specific comment, action, reaction to something. So where they attended something, they reacted, they liked something, they commented something, they did something that we can follow up on an action that they've done, whether it was directly with us or not. And it's to create a conversation. Our business is all about creating conversations with people. That's all it is. And it's creating conversations without the agenda of like, oh my God, I want you to hire me. I want you to buy what I have to sell. It's creating conversations to find out more about people. And I have the mindset of like, I genuinely want to help you if we're having a conversation with you. I don't know how I can help you. Maybe you need recommendation for summer tires or snow tires, or maybe you're putting in a pool in your backyard and you're looking for a landscaper. I don't know how I can help you. Maybe it's business related. Maybe it's not. I don't care. I just want to connect with you and create a conversation with you and find out who you are as a person. That's the first step. And yeah, obviously if it's around business and it's online, we're starting to create conversations and the person comes to you because they're joining your Facebook group. Obviously the conversation is around business, right? So I'm not just saying, oh, you're putting in a pool. But again, the point is at a networking meeting, face to face. Again, my agenda is not like, oh, how can I sell them something that I have to offer? It's more of like, I want to get to know you as a person. And, given how the follow-up is starting, in other words, what am I following up based on what type of action, and then where I can start to go from there. And that's the genuine mindset I want you to start to approach it from. It's how I can start to help that person. And I need to understand what they're going through, where they're at in their world, what's going on in there, so I can, and even if just, like I said, if it's a recommendation on like, oh, I know a great Mexican restaurant, great. That's a start, right? Obviously, if we get into conversation that leads into more in-depth about a need that they might have, then I'm able to help them with as a coach, right? Obviously, that's the path that we're going down. Or as a seminar presenter, that's what I'm looking for as well. And so I'm trying to create a conversation and create a connection. And that's what I want you to start to go through from your process of following up. So when I'm mentoring with my coaching clients, obviously I take this follow-up with them to another whole level that I can't do in a format like this. In other words, what I do with my clients, whether it's in a group format, video format like this, or I'm on the phone, or even back and forth in email between our sessions, is I'm helping them with the specific conversations, right? In other words, hey, Jeff, so-and-so attended my event. I feel like they might be a potential client. How do I follow up them? What do I say to them, right? Or someone wrote me this, or someone made a comment on my blog or on my Facebook page or on a video that I did, and here's what they said. How do I follow up with them specifically? Obviously, I can't do that specifically with you now. That's stuff I do when I'm mentoring clients, and it's specific per situation. But I want to give you some general thoughts around that. Is number one, when we're following up with people, is you've got to be persistent with it. And a lot of the challenge people have with following up is that they guess. In other words, it's like, how much do I follow up with this person, and what do I say, and how frequently do I do that? And I don't want to be a pain in the ass, or I don't want to be overly pushy or say too much, right? So in other words, is what we've got to do with our follow-up is we've got to take the standpoint of where we have the lead and we have the control of the conversation, but I want it to feel as if that person does. In other words, I'm going to lead the conversation, but before I make any forward movements, I'm always asking permission from that person. right? Or if I'm following up, I'm giving a reason why I'm following up based on that person's actions or reactions. So in other words, even if it's an initial thing, even if something as simple as someone liking a post that you did on your business page or a video that you did, right? And in the beginning, when we don't really have any, if no leads, that's the type of stuff that I want you following up with, right? And again, it might not go anywhere, but again, it's all about creating conversations and digging. Our business is all about digging. No one's coming to you saying, oh my God, you're the best thing in the world. I want to hire you as a coach. Can it happen? Yes. Will it happen? Hopefully, but it's a lot more rare, if never, than more frequent. So in other words, we've got to dig. So if someone liked something in the beginning that you did, I'm going to hover over their name on Facebook or wherever platform you're going to, I'm going to find their profile and I'm going to message them back and I'm going to say, hey, so-and-so, I saw that you liked my last video on, the ins and outs of following up. I'm curious, what it is specifically that you liked about it, or what it is that you're going through in your world where you connected with the content or my education. And again, that person might not even message you back, right? They might not even acknowledge it, and that's okay. But for the time that the person does, and it leads into a conversation, it leads into a client, trust me, I've done it, and it's happened to me many times. That's why I teach this stuff. It's not just digging through nebulous stuff. This is how you get clients sometimes, is they're not all just going to be handed to you. And unless you're doing paid marketing where the people are coming in, and even if you're doing paid marketing like Facebook ads and they're coming in and people are there, you still got to dig and create the conversations and following up to figure out where you can go with them if there's potential clients in there. This is just the free way of doing it. And it's just as involved and it's just as important to do it this way. So, right. So we're starting to dig out conversations and we're trying to, again, maintain the control of it, but allow them to feel like they have the control. So in other words, hey, I noticed that you did this. I'm curious, what was your motivation for doing it? I'm curious, what did this specifically liked about it, right? So I'm following up based on what you said. You came to my event and we didn't have any interaction at the event before or afterwards. And hey, I was so great having you at my event. I'm curious, what was your motivation for coming? I'm curious, what are you going through in your world right now where this information was relevant to you, right? There's a reason why I'm following up or initiating this conversation with someone. I noticed that you did this, or I noticed that you joined my Selling Coaching private Facebook group. I'm curious your motivation for joining. I'm curious, tell me a little bit more about your coaching business and what you're looking to do with that, right? These are relevant questions based on that person's action that I'm looking to create a conversation with, right? And I'm asking those open-ended questions. And one thing I'm not doing is I'm saying a bunch of different questions, but what I'm not doing in the actual communication, whether it's a live conversation after an event or a virtual communication because of an action, someone liked, someone commented, someone joined, a social platform or community, I'm not stacking questions and I'm not asking all these questions to you at once. I'm actually like, what was your motivation for joining? Or how did you find out about me? Or tell me a little bit more about your coaching business and what you're looking to do specifically with it, or where you're at with it, right? And I just saw a short, simple thing so they get it on their mobile phone, they get it, wherever they're at, and it's something short and sweet to initiate the conversation with, right? And so this is where I want to do that because most people aren't going to respond to begin with, but it's you taking the time to show that you're not a robot, you're not just this virtual thing, you're not just dealing with autoresponders and funnels, and you're actually a real person who cares about your business and you care about people. And so you're reaching out and you're taking a small amount of your time to create a back and forth conversation with no agenda other than to get to know that person a little bit. And obviously, like I said, and I reiterate this again, if it leads to the point where you find out more about what they're going for and you can help them with it and they're open to it, yes, you could make an approach at that point. But the approach at that point is much different than it is from the beginning before you even know a person or before you even know if that person even needs or requires or is open to your help, right? So these follow-up conversations we want to make them feel like we're asking them permission, feel like they're in control. And the same thing goes as the conversation goes further along. Is if I get to that point where, it's a back and forth conversation. And it doesn't matter how that conversation is taking place, over the phone, virtually on a social messaging type platform, email. Ultimately, I want to get people over to my email, so I have more control over that. I also have their email, so they're more likely to see it. I mean, I know some people are very active on social media, but it doesn't mean everyone's going to their messaging on the particular social media outlet to, go back and forth to message you. Even me as a business owner, I really primarily work with email. So and obviously I use Facebook and I use Facebook Messenger, but I don't get there as frequently because email's my thing, right? So if I'm having a conversation with someone, I'm trying to get them from Messenger over to my email because I'm going to see it quicker. It's just the way I work, right? And it's how you converse with people. So find out what works, but so stay persistent with it, stay on top of it, and always ask permission along the way. Ask those questions, see how the conversations develops, and at some point, when I say soon in the conversation, and I hate to say sooner or later, but at some point there's just this is the internal barometer you've got to develop as you create more and more of these follow-up conversations, is you've just got to get a feel for when the conversation needs to end or it needs to have some like conclusion. And so early in the conversation, it's like I'm reaching out or I'm following up based on an action or something that they did that I can say, hey, I noticed that you did X, tell me a little bit more about that or your motivation or what you saw, like I've already outlined, and then they tell you a little bit more. And then I'm like, oh, it's great to hear that. I acknowledge it. I validate it a little bit, and, when you say that you're doing X, elaborate on that a little bit more to help me understand what you're thinking about. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to get to know them, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking I'm trying to get to know them, but I'm also trying to find out, as I ask these questions, is there a need that they have? Because we can help people, but you've got to keep that in the background while you're finding this out. And it's not like we're trying to be devious. We're being authentic, but we're going through this conversation and we're putting them first. We're always putting them first. And so we're getting to that point where the conversation naturally progresses. And you've got to get a feel for, based on how much is this person sharing with you, how quick is their response time, is it a back and forth conversation? Are they asking you questions too? Or, are they elaborating on it enough? Are they getting into more details? Are they sharing some emotion, or are they just very superficial? Again, if it's not long, if they're not quick, if they're not sharing emotion, forget it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is these are just things to be aware of and to be observant of. These are the things that I've observed in the thousands of conversations I've had over the years, is in starting to understand, of the people that end up actually moving forward and doing something with me, hire me as their mentor coach, or in the past as their life coach or whatever, business coach. People that have hired me to come in for an event. You start to simulate and learn which conversations are, I'll say it like this, higher potential business conversations. The ones that aren't, number one, I don't want you to prejudge a situation and be like, oh, this person's taking forever to get back to me. They're not going to hire me. No, like people are busy and they don't know you. And you also got to look at your approach too, right? So don't write someone off. You sometimes don't get back to people either. Like it doesn't mean there's a hidden agenda, or they're not a potential client, or they're not a good person. It just means it's whatever. Just keep moving on, and when they get back to you, or if they get back to you, they get back to you. If they don't, then that's it. You reach out and there's a certain point where you want to have more leads than time. Therefore, you're not hyper focusing on like a person or at least 5 people, because when you do that, then you're just like, oh my God, when are they going to call? When are they going to get back to me? Oh my God, it's been 30 seconds. Why aren't they getting back to me? And so it's like, dude, chill out. Like even if it's been a week or 2 weeks, like they have no reason to get back to you. It's okay. Like you've made a conversation, find someone else, keep going, and maybe they'll get back to you. Obviously in more specific conversations that are high potential, meaning you do a seminar and someone comes up after you and says, hey, tell me more about your coaching or how much it costs. And because you're a student of mine, you don't actually give them the answer. You say, I'd love to tell you more about my coaching. I'm curious, why do you ask? Right? I'd love to tell you more about my coaching packages and the cost involved. I'm curious, what has you asking, or what's your motivation for asking? Tell me a little bit more about that. What are you going through in your world right now where you're potentially considering hiring me as your coach? Right? So ask them a question, right? And now all of a sudden you have a conversation and they start to qualify, and they say, you know what, let's follow up from here. Like that's where it's like, yeah, we want to be more on top of that. So that's where I say is just always be in control and just say, okay, yeah, let's follow up. And then you walk away. Well, what's the follow-up? Like, are you calling them? Are they calling you? Are you guys emailing each other? Did you give them a business card? Okay, well, did you get their contact information? Because that's the important piece. You always need their contact information. If you don't have people's contact information, you can't follow up with them, and don't expect someone to follow up with you. It's very rare. I say that again and slower and emphatically. It's very rare for someone to follow up with you unless they're super interested in something. And even when someone's super interested in something, they're not overly eager and enthusiastically reaching out to you and proactively and persistently, because odds are they're scared and they're nervous and they don't really know what coaching is. And it's like, oh my God, I'm actually going to talk to this person about moving forward with this when I want to, but I'm so scared. I don't know how, and I know it's going to cost me money. And what motivation do they really have, right? So you got to think about, that's why it's very rare, very small percentage. We've got to have their information, and we've got to have control and say, it's been great talking with you. It sounds like you're open to taking a closer look at how I can help you as your coach. I'll tell you what we're going to do is let's set up a time where we can have a brief conversation. We can further this up a little bit more. And at that point, if it sounds right, I'll let you know where we can go from there. How can I get a hold of you? Say this is after an event. Okay, is this your best email? Great. So when we get home, I'll email you. Maybe if you don't have calendars right then and there, if I did, I would set it up with them. But you know what? I'll email you as soon as I get home, and I'll let you know a few days and times at work. We'll set up a brief conversation, and then we'll figure out where we can go from there. How does that sound? Great. I get home, I email them. Hey, we just met at that event. Great talking with you afterwards. I know you said you're potentially interested in potentially working with me or finding out a little bit more about that. Again, like I said, let's set up a brief conversation. Here are 2 or 3 days and times that work for me. Let me know what's works best. Once we confirm it, I'll follow up with you and let you know all the details. To see how I'm controlling the conversation, but I'm also saying, back in that one-on-one conversation prior to that, how does that sound? Is that okay? Is this the best email to reach you at? I'm laying it out step by step, and I'm being specific, and I'm controlling the situation, but I'm allowing that person to feel comfortable with it. In other words, I'm not just leaving it up in the air, or I'm not putting it on them because they're never going to follow up with you. I'm controlling that situation, and I'm being very detailed, and I'm walking someone through a process, right? So there's the initial follow-up that I started at the beginning of the show today, where it's just this casual stuff following up on people's reactions, right? Those are just casual things that we're trying to dig up conversations. We're trying to create connections. We're trying to build relationships. We're trying to build an audience, right? Those are casual things that are just happening and that's ongoing, and hopefully that can turn into, at a minimum, someone being on your email community or in a social media network platform following you, and or maybe it leads to something further than that. Then there's some more serious interactions, potential leads that come from our events, or some things that we're doing there where people are inquiring. They're going through our website. Hey, tell me a little bit more about this, or I'm considering hiring you, or, right, I really like what you're doing. I'd like to talk to you about this. Or they're asking questions, specific questions. I really need some help with this. How can you help me? Stuff like that. That's where I'm walking someone through a process, right? This is what I help my mentoring clients with, is the specific process of walking someone through step by step. That's what I do with someone. So when someone's interested in potentially working with me, I have a call to action. If you remember the beginning of this show today, one of the things I said is, hey, if you're sick of struggling or you don't want to struggle and you need some help, consider hiring me as your mentor coach. And what was my call to action? I said, go to my website, sellingcoaching.com, under the Work With Me page, and fill out the form at the bottom. I will follow up with you, and we can create a relaxed conversation and go from there, right? So it's a very clear step-by-step place. Go to website, go to this page, fill out the form at the bottom. I'll follow up with you. We'll go from there. You know exactly what to do, and it's a very simple process. And then from there, when I call you up, we have a conversation, and I spend some time with you, and I'm not just trying to sell you on hiring me. I'm going to spend 10, 15. If I need more time with you, I will take it, to find out where you're at, what you're going through, why you asked me the initial question that you asked me in the first place, why are we even talking, how serious are you about it, what's the timing of that situation like that for you. If that checks out, you qualify at that point, then I offer you a complimentary mentor coaching session, right? So your qualification process should be no different, but it's walking someone through that process. A lot of the reason why people I found don't get business, and in the beginning when I was losing business, is because people aren't persistent enough or consistent enough in terms of their follow-up, or they try and pull the trigger too early. It's like going on a date and just meeting that person, and saying like, hey, you want to go back to my place? It's like, really? It's like, can we like talk first and get to know each other first? And we, you know what I mean? Like it's you're moving way too quickly, and does it work sometimes? Yeah, sometimes it does work, but the point of saying is we're going to have a long-term business, and we're going to create relationships with people, because when it doesn't work out, if you move too quickly, now you've lost somebody, right? And now they're not a fan of yours. And now you're just this pushy person, which is what we don't want to be in the first place. Is we take the time with people when it comes time and build relationships and understand them better, when it comes time to asking more direct questions and when it comes time to helping them create a decision or it's decision time, we can ask more of them. We can be more direct with them because we've taken the time to truly understand who they are. And therefore we can help them to decisions. We can get them to decisions. And ideally they'll come on board and they'll hire us and they'll become a part of our community in a different way, our clientele, our paid clients, right? And we can ask and demand more of them later on when we are more patient, we take time with them there. And that's what we need later on is we're going to need their honesty. We're going to need their trust. We're going to need that rapport because we can't move forward as we get deeper and deeper into the sales process until we have that relationship, until we have that trust. And that's a vital piece of it. So when we move too far, too fast, too quickly, don't take the time, too much automation, not enough personal attention and time, then what's happening is we're rushing the process and we're losing people. And then we're losing the effect of referrals. We're losing the effect of just energy that people put out there about you. And that's an important component to this follow-up process.